Hey, what's up guys? For the next tip I'm going to give you guys today, I'm going to walk you through how I make drums using Kick 2. They'll sound something kind of like this. Alright, so we're going to start off by making a new MIDI channel, and opening up Kick 2. So just gonna move these guys up here and move. I'm gonna start off by moving the MIDI down here. I like to use drum racks personally, so I'm gonna start by grouping this to a drum rack and keeping the kick on the C1. We're gonna put the snare later on C sharp 1. So open up Kick 2. And let's see how this sounds here. Just the initial sound here. I'm gonna start off by tuning the kick a bit, using the pitch here. So let's go. I like to tune it to maybe an F. Keep my stuff in a generally good key here to write in. All right, so that's starting to sound good. So I'm gonna move on to the amp here to just change how the volume is shaping the sound. So I don't like my kicks for the dubstep or trap sound to be too long or too short. So let's try to get this sounding good. And what's cool about Kick 2 is they give you a lot of different parameters to mess with. Even if you're in the amp parameter, you can still change the pitch. It just helps a lot by when you're trying to shape a sound, you know, getting it to that point. Because the length and pitch definitely affect the end sound. So I'm just gonna go back to the pitch and reshape this a little bit here. Yeah, it's starting to sound good there. So after that, what I'm going to do is move to the click transient. And the way you sort of, when it comes to making drums, the way to kind of get that right sound you're looking for is to really space between the thump, the initial thunk sound, and the clicks or the transients, as well as whatever other layers you're going to be adding. Like if you're going to be adding some sort of little clap sound or another percussion sample to it, just something. It's just good to have a good space between those things. Otherwise, it might sound messy or not hard hitting enough. It's just good to have everything sitting relative to each other. So, but for kicks, it's a little easier, and especially with the Kick 2 plugin, it makes it real easy to just get all that spacing. So like for example here in the amp, this kind of comes up like that, like almost like there's a little bit of an attack on there, and that will allow room for the click to cut through in correlation with the thump. So I'm just gonna switch through these clicks here. Kind of like that one personally. Just gonna EQ this a little bit. Let's see here. All right, so that's actually starting to sound pretty good. You can add more clicks if you like and change the length of the click and et cetera, et cetera. Yeah, like, let's see. Change the volume of the click basically. So, but this is sounding good in my opinion, so I'm just going to keep this as is here. Do a little bit of post-processing in Ableton Live using, I'm just going to throw an OTT on this, just a light OTT. Yeah, that sounds good like that. You can kind of experiment more with it by adding EQs and stuff after, but I'm gonna keep this simple and just keep it like this. So next I'm gonna move on to the snare. Snares can be a bit more tricky than kicks. I just typed in snare there. But basically, it's all about, like I said it earlier with the kick, it's all about kind of getting that, the spacing between the thump and the transient, as well as the clap or whatever other percussion sound right. And when you get those all lined up and right with the right pitches and everything, you can get a really good sounding snare. And when you compress it all together, that's kind of like the key essential parts to this. So let's see here. I'm going to start off by, I'm just going to mute the kick and the MIDI here, just so I can only focus on the snare. Have this dropped on there. So see how this sounds from, all right, so obviously that doesn't sound anything like a snare. So I'm just gonna mute the first click so I can focus on the thump here. I kind of like shaping the thump and just thinking of it as almost like a higher tom sound, like a short high tom, like doom, and have a little bit of, not necessarily a long attack, but like a very short attack with space before, so I can fit that hard-hitting click beforehand, or transient. So I'm just gonna start changing the pitch of this here. It's more so in the amp and what you do with that, you know, versus the pitch. So I'm actually going to move to that right now. I kind of pitched it up though, so we can kind of start hearing that thump. So I'm just going to shorten this a bit. Take this guy back here. Just see how there's this thing of space right here. You can see in the sample right there that there's going to be space right there for an initial click to go beforehand. So yeah, it's starting to sound like a snare thump. And I'm going to shift this to being more of like F note. It just takes a lot of finessing to get it to that sort of good point that you want to get it to. This is starting to sound pretty good in my opinion though. So what I'm going to do next is move on to the first click, because basically we're going to use a couple different clicks in this. And the first one is, we just got to find that right, almost like a very snappy, punchy sounding transient. So I'm just going to look through these. I kind of like looking through the noise ones a bit. It's very snare sounding, so unmute this. That almost sounds like a bit of a lo-fi snare there, so let's see like what else we have. Yeah, actually it sounds pretty cool. And I'm gonna actually go in and shorten this a lot. Oh yeah, it's a lot better right there. As you can tell, the spacing here versus the spacing here is, there's a bit of space here, so it makes this click cut through a bit better. Let's see. Yeah, let's see if we can just continue to work with that. So next I'm going to move to click 2, and in this one I'm going to do more of a clap sounding noise, just to kind of add like a mid-range element to this. So let's see here. A lot of times what I used to do is I would actually do this whole process using just audio and using a synth such as Serum or Anna 2, and it just kind of like shaping the sound with the audio files and everything, and then compressing them together, and then in the end, and I'm essentially doing that right now as we speak. So I'm just going to move to the noise here, see what this sounds like. You kind of start to hear that. You can kind of space this differently too, but I tend to line this up a bit with the transient, maybe give it a little bit of an attack with the amp, so I'm just gonna do that right now. Yeah, just gonna change the noise here. Yeah, it's starting to sound like an actual snare, as you can tell. Yeah, it sounds actually pretty good. Go back to the actual length and shorten it a bit. Alright, so I want to see what this sounds like in comparison to the kick by muting the MIDI here. It sounds very, very raw and unprocessed right now, but basically what we're going to do is start finessing the snare with different types of compression, EQing and whatnot, and then sort of do an overall master on the drums. So I'm going to start doing start by doing an OTT on the snare. Sounds very 80s like that. Cut out some of the low end here with an EQ. Give it a lot more highs. It's all about getting that kind of bell curve going in the right frequency range. Usually want to do it around where the thump is happening. That's kind of what I think of. And then let's get another bell curve up in the higher mids. Yeah, starting to sound good like that. And then in the end, I'm just gonna add a saturator just to kind of give it some more harmonics. Yeah, it sounds good. I'm gonna turn it down 1.5 decibels to match the kick a little more. And then after that, what I'm gonna do is sort of throw an overall master on the drums. Obviously, you can kind of bounce these out to audio if you prefer that, but I'm just gonna keep them just as the plugin for the tips today. So I'm gonna start out by throwing an OTT though over the drum track here. Bring it to 12. Still a bit much low end on that snare, so yeah, it's a lot better. Gonna add a see what an overdrive might sound like on here. A bit much, so let's take this down. Gonna go into the kick here and just actually adjust with an EQ just to kind of get it sounding a bit better with that overdrive. Yeah, it's sounding good. And then after the after the overdrive, I'm gonna add a saturator. Yeah, it's sounding pretty solid like that. Well, that pretty much concludes me making my drums with Kick 2. For the next part, I'm going to be going over how to make percussion using Untitled, and basically just covering how I make hi-hats, cymbals, and claps. So, peace.
Thanks everybody for watching, commenting, and indeed liking. We really do appreciate all the support we get here on our Sonic Academy YouTube channel. So if you found this video super useful, please, we'd love you to hit the subscribe button. We update the YouTube channel every week with new content. And if you want to watch some more relevant content, just click on the videos beside me.